Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Shall we start now? So first of all, I would like to inform with you that about our schedules because related to the information, I think official information from our university related to ability to come to the class offline. So because yesterday you have the meeting that led to the very late to my cancel of the class. So we only have only one week. The week from May 11 to May 17, in order to give you the kind of a summary and also the review for the first period for the classes that they have studied in the first period. So for the next. That's the reason why I asked the moderator to ask you about your schedules. So whether you is it possible for you to attend our class for the next weeks? So please inform to the moderator about your availability in the next week. So from the week after the next week, we will continue to study online, to have the lecture online until the end of this course. So it means for this course, we also we don't have any offline class. So please remember. So that's why for the midterm exam, so we have to follow our schedule that I have set up previously. We have to do the presentation. So I will check whether we can do the presentation offline or not, and will inform video. But at least we will remain the form of the midterm exam. So please remember. So after this class, please inform to the moderator about your availability for the next week. So if you can do, so we still continue our online class as our schedules. The Wednesday morning, the first sessions, and Friday morning, the second sessions. All right. So today we will continue with the classification of bioablating, of ocean bioablatings. So in the previous class, we have mentioned about the first fundamentals based on negotiable ability of the bioablating. So we have analyzed very carefully about the straight bioablating, outer bioablating, and the two-barrel bioablating. So far, do you have any questions before we come to the new content? Any questions or comments? Okay, if not, so you have to come to the second fundamentals, based on the issuing term. So if you still remember about the, I think we should back a little bit about the definition of the ocean bioablatings. So you can see the bioablating is the main document used in international maritime transport. This is used by carrier or representative of the carrier after cargo is shipped on board or received for shipment. So based on the definitions, we can say actually we have two moments in order to issue the bioablatings. So based on the issuing term, so we will have two different kinds of bioablatings. The first one is a ship on board bioablating, and the second one is receive for shipment. Ship on board and receive for shipment. So how to so as usual, I will introduce with you the two main things. The first one is the form, or how to realize which one is ship on board and which one is receive for shipment. And the second thing is the meaning of the ship on board and receive for shipment and related SO. So let's say about the form of the ship on board bioablating. Okay, let's see. So first of all, so this is the first size of the bill of lading, as I mentioned with you previously. And this is the title of the bill of lading, like online booking or online bill of lading. It's sales by BM Cole. And on the first side of the bill of lading, so you can see that empty or maybe the blank boxes in columns. So in the previous class, we only focus on the this is the live bill booking. Sorry, so we have to check the bill of lading. Okay. So this is the form of the bill of lading. It shows by land shipping companies. So you can see in the previous class, we only focus on the consignee box. So in order to distinguish among straight bill of lading, order bill of lading, and two-bearer bill of lading. So now we want to know which one is ship on board and which one is received for shipment bill of lading. So you can see we have to focus on this one, this box, the biggest box. So actually, the biggest box here is spending for the information related to the consignment, to our consignment. So like you can see the different contents like marks and numbers, number and kind of packages, description of goods, cross weight, measurements. So this box usually be spending for the information related to the consignment. However, if we want to realize which one is a ship on board and which one is reserved for shipment, so usually that kind of information also be specified in this box. And who will specify that kind of information? Usually the key areas, depending on your current positions of the consignment. So that's why usually the carrier and the land shipping company also give the information related to the whether this is a ship on board or reserved for shipment also stay here. So please remember this box. And usually the land shipping companies or the carrier, they have a kind of stamp. So if depending on the different cases, so they will give the stamp on this box. So please remember. So now let's see about the definitions, official definition related to the ship on board and receive for shipment bill of lading, and we will see the difference between them. First of all, ship on board, the bill of lading that is realized after the cargo pass the vessel's rail, or maybe so. This is a kind of very traditional concept, and depending on the content of the older versions of the Incoterms. So nowadays they can have the other concept, the other definition, like realized after the cargo is on board of the vessels. So it means our goods has already on board of the vessel. And how about the receipt for shipment? This bill of lading is also after the carrier receipt for shipment, pledge to ship on board and transport the shipment by the named vessel. So it means if we have the receipt for shipment bill of lading, so it means our goods has been loaded on board of the vessel and still stay somewhere at the port of loading, like for example, like at the warehouse or the berth of the port, or in any places except the on board of the vessel. So that's the difference in terms of the position of our consignment about goods. So how about the meaning? How about the meanings? So you have to come back to the very first step. When the carrier issue the bill of ladings, and please remember that the carrier will issue the bill of lading to the shipper, when the shipper or after the shipper has already delivered the goods to the carrier. So the shipper is the first person who will hold whether either the ship on board or receipt for shipment bill of ladings. Please remember. So how about the meaning? The meaning of the ship on board and receipt for shipment. So let's see about the ship on board first. So I think I hope you still remember about the main rights and responsibility of the three traditional terms and conditions in Incoterms. I mean FOB, CIF, or CFR. Whether you use the older version or the newest version. So actually we'll have the same the common things, the common characteristics for the FOB, CIF, and CFR, so no worries about the version of Incoterms. So what I mean is regarding the FOB, CIF, and CFR, so have your dears and remember any common things, any common characteristics of the three traditional terms and conditions? Do you remember?
Can I?
Please.
I think CFR, CIF, and FOB have the liability of the seller. Is that the goods must be on the board of the ship. The liability of the seller when the transfer the goods to the buyer is when the goods must be on the board of the ship.
Yes, exactly. So we have the same characteristics for the three terms and conditions FOB, CIF, and CFR. So which means the seller only completed his responsibility when he already loaded the goods on board of the vessels, delivered the goods. Our goods has been loaded on board of the vessel, right? So in terms of if we analyze that kind of things in terms of documents, in the type of documents, so it means that for the FOB, CIF, and CFR, the seller only completed his responsibility when he already received the ship on board bill of ladings, because ship on board bill of lading is a kind of very important evidence to prove that the goods has been loaded on board of the vessels, which means the seller has already completed his responsibility in the sales contracts. Right? So it means this is also the very important things that will be mentioned in the letter of credit. So in the previous class, we also mentioned about the letter of credit, and we mentioned that the staff, the bank, usually at the international payment department, will checks the set of documents submitted by the seller. Right. So one of the main things that the staff, the bank, have to check if the sales contracts has signed according to the FOB or CIF or CFR, yes, whether the bill of lading is shipped on board or not. So if the bill of lading is received for shipment, so which means that the seller hasn't completed his responsibility, so immediately the staff of the bank will refuse our set of documents. So please remember, for the cases of FOB, CIF, and CFR sales contract, so the bill of lading should be the ship on board bill of lading, so that we can receive the payment from the bank, or in other words from the buyers, because we the shippers or the seller has already finished, has already completed his responsibility. So how about the receipt for shipment? So again, the concept is the bill of lading. That kind of bill of lading will be assessed after the carrier only receive the shipment, only receive the consignment, and of course our goods hasn't been loaded on board the vessel. So the carrier just received our goods, and then he promised that later on I'm going to load the goods on the vessels, and then I will transport the ship the goods by the new vessels. So everything just stay at the pledge or the promise from the carriers. So of course, from if you are the shipper, you are the seller. Which one do you prefer? Which one, ship on board or receive for shipment?
I think it's a ship on board.
Of course, ship on board. Thank you. Because if we can hold the ship on board, so it means our goods has already been loaded on board the vessels. So we can have the peace in our mind. But for receive for shipments, so we just deliver the goods to the carriers. So we see sometimes we worry that from the time. So for example, our goods now stay at the warehouse of the port, and later on it will be loaded on board of the vessels. So sometimes they will have a kind of possibility of risks occurring when the goods stay at the warehouse, or during the time the goods will be transported, will be moved from the warehouse of the port to the vessels. So something like that. So that's why, of course, we prefer the ship on board bill of lading. However, let's say about the applicable cases of the receipt for shipment bill of ladings and say which one is more popular. So here are the cases. The goods arrive at the port of departure before the vessels. So it means we are the shipper, we are the seller, we already brought the goods to the loading port. However, because of any reason, the vessel hasn't come. So it means in this case, we cannot deliver the goods, we cannot ship we cannot load the goods on board the vessels. We just deliver the goods to the carriers, and of course later on the carrier will be the one who load the goods on board of the vessel. The other case is the goods arrive at the loading port when the vessel has not completed all the necessary conditions to the board of the port. So I have to explain with you several things related to this case. In this case, the vessels already arrived. The goods also arrive at the port of loading. However, you can see that before the vessels can receive the goods from the shippers. So usually when the vessels arrive to the port, so the vessels need to do some procedures, some necessary procedures. First of all, like the border procedures, because it is a kind of the border of another countries, the port of another countries. So like the vessels need to do the border procedures. And then the vessels before receive the new consignment of the new goods, so they need to do to clean all of the hole or the head of the hatch of the vessels, the hole or the hatch of the vessel, hầm tàu, hole or the hatch of the vessels. So the whole of the hatch of the vessels need to be cleaned up, so that we can avoid any kind of the damage related to this. For example, previously we carry the vessels carry rice or corn. Or another example, like maybe the salt. But later on, but currently, the vessel need to receive, for example, like maybe the tea or coffee. So if the vessels cannot, if we don't clean up the whole of the hatch of the vessels, so we can see that currently if we carry the coffee or the tea, so maybe the taste of the coffee or the tea can be changed because of the maybe smell from the salt, for example. So that's why we need to clean up the hull or the hatch of the vessels before receiving the goods. So that's another the other procedures, and also sometimes, and then also the vessels also need to do the custom procedures, and only after receiving the certificate from the port, like a certificate or maybe the proof of completion of the custom procedure, the proof of the project, and then the cleanup procedures, similarly with the border procedures, so on and so forth. So the vessels can receive the consignment. So in this case, I mean the goods are already arrived at the port of loading. The vessels also arrived. However, because the vessel hasn't completed those kind of procedures, so that's why we cannot. The shippers only deliver the goods to the carrier, but the goods hasn't been loaded on board of the vessels. And the last guy has delivered the goods through a middleman, like a forwarder, a multi-mode transfer operator, or consolidator. So this is also the very popular cases, especially in this in our era. So why this is very popular? So nowadays you can see that actually, for example, we are the seller or the buyer in the sales contracts, and we are in the different countries. So of course, the best thing that you can do is about the negotiate about the sales contracts. But we don't have any skill, and we don't have any kind of the professional skill in the maybe in the logistics services, like how to move the goods, and we also have any trucks, and sometimes we are not really skillful in doing the procedures, import and export procedure for the goods. So that's why we need to outsource such other services from the other companies. Like I think the most popular cases are the logistics service providers. So we usually the sellers and also the buyer will have to outsource the services from the other parties. So the other party can be forwarder, can be multi-mode transfer operator, consolidator, logistics service providers. So it means we are the seller and the buyer. We just stay at our warehouse, our premise. We outsource the services from the other parties. So, for example, if I ask a logistics service provider to provide the full services for me, so I'm the shipper, I'm the seller. So I just stay at my premise. So the logistics service provider will come to my premise, take the goods, and do everything they want for me until the goods has been delivered to the buyers. So in this case, because I am stay at my office, at my warehouse, I just deliver the goods to the logistics service provider. So in this case, the logistics service providers need to issue a document to show that he's already received the goods. So in this case, of course, because everything happened at my premise, at my warehouse. So of course, the document that the party issue to me is only be the receipt for shipment bill of lading. It is impossible to issue the ship on board because the goods hasn't been loaded on board of the vessels. So that's the case of applicable cases for shipment bill of lading. So in reality, this is my questions. In reality, between the ship on board bill of lading and receipt for shipment bill of lading, which one is more popular? Which one?
I think the shipment.
Receipt for shipment. Thank you. Of course, in reality, I think for many cases we have to reserve the receipt for shipment bill of lading. So let's see what is the problem that we are coping with now. In reality, on the one hand, so we can see that currently most of the exporter, importer, or seller and buyers. still prefer traditional terms and conditions. What I mean is FOB, CIF, and CFR in the sales contract, right? On the one hand, they prefer the traditional terms and conditions, FOB, CIF, and CFR. On the other hand, because of other condition, because of other reason, so we can usually, in terms of document, the shipper only reserve for shipment bill of lading. And I have shown you previously that if, of course, if we use FOB, CIF, and CFR, in order to receive the payment, you have to submit the ship on board bill of ladings. However, actually, in reality, the more popular document that you have to use is receipt for shipment bill of ladings. It means the shippers or the seller cannot receive the payment from the buyers. Understood? So what is the solutions? Do you understand my questions? Again, on the one hand, most of the sellers and the buyer or exporter and importer, they prefer to use FOB, CIF, and CFR in the sales contracts. And of course, according to those kind of terms and conditions, the seller needs to submit the ship on board bill of lading in order to receive the payment. However, in reality, because of other reasons, so we can say that the more popular document that we have to use receipt for shipment. So what I mean is, on the one hand, the sales contract still CIF, CFR, and FOB. On the other hand, the document that the shipper can receive from the carrier at the port of loading is only the receipt for shipment bill of ladings, which means the shipper or the seller can receive the payment, cannot receive the payment. What is the solutions?
Can I?
Please.
I think in that case, the shipper or the forwarder or logistic provider must inform to the shipping line or the captain of the ship in order to when the cargo is loaded on the boat, they must write. I think they must inform in that bill of lading that the ship, the cargo had loaded on board on that date.
Okay.
So the receipt for shipment BL becoming the shipment on board BL.
Exactly. So the first, I think the very typical solution is we are the shipper, we are the seller who just quit, because currently we are holding the receipt for shipment bill of lading. So actually, we need ship on board bill of lading. So we just need to wait until when? Until the cargo has been loaded on board the vessel, and we can ask the other party, or maybe we can ask the shipping line to issue the new document, like exchange for the ship on board bill of ladings, because currently our goods has stayed on board the vessels. Or the other way is still in this case, the other way is we just ask the shipping line to write something on the surface of our bill of lading is, for example, as you mentioned, that the goods or the consignment has been loaded on board of the vessels maybe at 9 a.m. May 15, 2020, for example. So immediately, if the bank or the buyer check about that kind of information, so they can understand that our goods has been loaded on board of the vessels, and the seller has completed his responsibility in this case, so the seller can receive the payment. So that's the first solution. However, I would like to introduce with you the other solution for this case, and I think this kind of solution can help us to do everything very actively. So what I mean is, So let's check again about the traditional terms and conditions, FOB, CIF, and CFR. And I have mentioned with you that because of the content related to the main terms, main rights and responsibility of the seller and the buyers in those kind of the terms, especially related to the responsibility of the seller. So that's why we have to. That's why we have to hold. We have to submit the ship on board bill of lading instead of the receipt for shipment. So why don't we use the other terms and conditions which still corresponded with the traditional terms and conditions? So what I mean is, in terms of the rights and responsibility of the seller and the buyer still corresponded to the traditional terms and conditions, but we can avoid that kind of responsibility of the key areas in terms of submitting the ship on board bill of ladings. So what I mean is, because we just mentioned about the traditional terms and conditions, but in the Incoterms, I think I already mentioned with you previously, we still have the modern terms and conditions. So I think it's better to use the modern terms and conditions in order to replace for the traditional terms and conditions. Meanwhile, we still keep the content, most of the main things related to the seller and the buyer's rights and responsibility. And also we can avoid the responsibility of the seller to submit the ship on board bill of lading. So my question is, according to your opinion, which ones can replace for FOB, CIF, and CFR in that way? Which ones can replace for FOB? Which ones can replace for CIF? Which ones can replace for CFR? So why I said that FOB, CIF, and CFR, the traditional terms and conditions, because they are the first one. They are the first one which was issued in the Incoterms. The second thing is, they are only used for the maritime transport, for the sea freight, and they have the common things that you had mentioned previously, that the seller need to load the goods on board the vessels in order to prove that he already completed his responsibility. So in terms of document, it means he needs to submit ship on board bill of ladings. So now, let's see which kind of terms and condition can replace for the FOB, CIF, and CFR. Can you guess? The hint is, this is the hint for you. If you want to see the corresponding terms and condition that can replace for the three terms and conditions. So first of all, let's see the consider about the term and condition in the same group. Like FOB, so you have to check the F group. CF and CFR, you have to check the C group. So now, how about the FOB? Which one is which one can replace for the FOB?
I think FAS.
FAS. Okay, thank you. Any other opinion?
Or FCA.
So which ones? So between the FAS, MS, and FCA, because in the F group we only have three terms and conditions, right? So between the FCA and FAS, which one is more suitable?
FCA is preferable.
Why, please?
I think because for the FCA, the responsibility of the seller is to give the goods, transfer the goods to the carrier, and that's when he completed his liability, and then he can receive payment with just the receipt for shipment BL.
Exactly. So FCA can perfectly replace for the FOB. Why? So as her opinions, so you can see she already explained about the main right and responsibility of the sellers and the buyer in the FCA, and also for the using the FCA, because you can see that FCA can apply for multimodal transport, any kind of transportation modes, including the sea freight. So it's really suitable to replace for the FOB. And also you can see that for the FCA, because the seller can deliver the goods to the first carrier assigned by the buyers. So we can see that actually the reserve for shipments in this case is really suitable. So that's why FCA can be used in order to replace for the FOB. How about the CIF and CIFR? How about the CIF? Which ones can replace for the CIF? I think for the CIF it's really easy.
I think it's the CIP.
Exactly. So why CIP? Why CIP? Can you just explain?
Because with the CIP, the seller also have to complete nearly the same responsibility to the CIF. I think so.
Nearly the same. Okay. Anything else? And any others can support? Can add more information? Can add more information?
I think it's because with the CIP, the risk is transferred when the goods are handed to the first carrier.
To the first carrier? Okay. Any other things? Thank you. Any other things? I think the easiest thing that you can realize between the CIF and CIP is about the insurance. Among the 11 terms and conditions in the Incoterms 2010, you can see we have only two conditions in which it includes the insurance premium, which are the CIF and CIP, right? So when we find any terms and conditions which can replace for the CIF, so that is I think that's the easiest characteristics that we can say between the CIF and CIP, which means in terms of price, it includes the insurance premium. In terms of responsibility, the seller, beside the responsibility to hire vessel or hire transportation modes to carry the goods, so he also need to buy the insurance for the seller. The seller need to buy the insurance for the buyers. So for the other thing you have already mentioned, so I don't want to review to analyze anymore. So for the CIF, we have the new terms and the modern terms as CIP, and similarly to the FCA, CIP can be used for multimodal transport, include the sea freight. How about the CIFR? I think so now it's very easy to have the last choice for the CIFR. So which ones will be the most suitable? Which ones? How many terms and conditions that we have in the C group?
I think CIFR can be replaced by CPT.
Exactly, thank you. CIFR can be replaced by the CPT. The reason why I think currently you can explain by yourself. So traditionally we have FOB, CIF, and CIFR. So they are the traditional one, they are the old one. But now we can change to FCA, CIP, and CIFR. PT. For those currently, actually in reality, they call the FCI, CIP, and CPT the modern terms and conditions that can apply for multimodal transport. And also, it's better to use FCI, CIP, and CPT in the sales contracts because you can remain the main terms of the main rights and responsibility of the sellers and the buyers. And also, we can avoid to use the ship on board bill of ladings. It means whether we use the ship on board or receive for shipment bill of ladings, so no problem with the seller. It means the seller can reserve the payment from the buyer or from the bank, whether he use the ship on board bill of lading or the receive for shipment bill of ladings. So that's the problem that we need to understand if we mention to the ship on board bill of lading and receive for shipment bill of lading. Any questions so far? Any questions so far? Okay, so if not, so let's go to the last fundamentals to have the classification of the bill of lading based on comments or remarks of the bill of lading. Based on comments or remarks of the bill of ladings. We will have the two different kinds of the bill of ladings, which are the clean, a perfect bill of lading, or unclean, a closed bill of lading. So as normal, we have to say about the form of the clean of perfect bill of lading or unclean bill of lading. See. Okay, this one. Okay. Again, if you would like to say, if you want to say which one is clean bill of lading and which one is unclean bill of lading, so once again you have to pay attention to the biggest boxes. Biggest box on the first side of the bill of lading that I have mentioned with you previously, which means the box spending for the information related to the consignment. So usually you can see that this is the very clear, simple, the typical information related to the kind of the bill of ladings. So, for example, the carrier will stamp clean onboard ocean bill of lading. Clean onboard ocean bill of ladings. So, of course, so now I think we don't need to care about the onboard. We only focus on the clean bill of ladings. So this is also the kind of the certificate issued by the carrier. So you have to pay attention into the box, the consignments box. So let's see about the definition of the concept related to the clean bill of lading or unclean. The bill of lading is issued by the carrier declaring that the goods have been received in an appropriate conditions without the presence of defects, normally about the appearance and the quantity of the goods. Sorry, I have in phone call, so a moment, please. Okay. So the bill of lading is issued by carrier declaring that the goods have been received in an appropriate conditions without the presence of defects, normally about the appearance and the quantity of the goods. In other words, in order to issue the clean bill of ladings, so the carrier has to check about the two main things. First thing is about the quantity or the volume of the goods, the measurement of the goods. And the second thing is appearance of the goods, or the appearance of the goods. So the carrier only check about the two main things, the quantity of the goods and the appearance of the goods. So my question is, why the carrier doesn't track about the quality of the goods? They only tracks about the quantity and the appearance. It means, for example, if the goods has been consolidated into the box, so the carrier just check about the outside of the box. The carrier cannot check inside the content inside the box. Cannot check about the quality of the goods. What is the result?
Teacher.
Please.
Because at that time the carriers are not the owner of the goods, because he and the bill lading to the shippers to receive the goods. So he's not the owner of the goods, so he cannot check the quality of the goods.
Okay, thank you. That's all. That the one reason. Any other reason?
I think before when the shippers transfer the cargo to the transfer the cargo to the carrier. So that the carrier must and in the bill lading the carrier must check. The shipper must assure that in the cargo there must be fulfill of the goods in that cargo. So the carrier sign right on the bill of lading that the package, the quantity, and the quality of the goods. Em nói tiếng Việt không ạ? Ý em là thằng shipper trước khi nó giao hàng cho thằng carrier thì thằng shipper nó phải đảm bảo được tất cả các yếu tố như là về chất lượng sản phẩm rồi mới thì thằng carrier nó thấy là đủ rồi thì thằng carrier như bill loading rồi thì thằng carrier nó mới cấp cái bill đấy cho thằng shipper, thì để khi mà kiểm tra hàng thì thằng carrier chỉ kiểm tra bên ngoài vỏ tàu và công và chì và seal của thằng shipper của cái hàng cargo đấy thôi ạ.
Okay, thank you. That's another reason. Any other idea? This is the very important things, because later on you have to do maybe the important export procedure for the goods, whether you are the seller or the buyers, or whether you are maybe the representative from the logistics service providers. So that's very important for you to know about the right and responsibility of the carriers. So any other opinions for these questions?
I think it's because to inspect the quality of the goods, it also requires some kind of mastery, because the goods maybe have some kind of technical specifications, and the carriers maybe having such kind of mastery to inspect the goods. And also maybe if the carrier inspect, it also requires them to somehow can damage the goods, because it has been packed and some how to say have been in the package and in the conditions to ensure the delivery. So I think that's why they cannot inspect the quality of the goods.
Okay, thank you. That's also very interesting opinions. And the other opinions? I'm still waiting for the very important things. Any other opinions? No? So, we are the shippers. We are the seller, for example. And even though for the case that we outsource the service for any kind of the OSP, I mean the logistics service provider. So when the shippers, so I call this is in general terms that is the shippers. So when the shipper deliver the goods to the carriers, so of course he has to do the procedures at the port, right? And you can see that actually, from the perspective of the carriers, we are the carriers. So who's the carriers? So what is the carriers in terms of definitions? So we can see that we only have the responsibility to carry the goods from the port of loading to the port of discharge. And our right is we can receive the freight from from the cargo owners, either the sellers or the buyers. So that's why we only track over the quantity of the goods first, because you have to assure for the quantity of the goods. And also the second thing is appearance of the goods, the outside situation of the goods, of course. It means you have to assure for the situation of the goods from the port of loading to the port of discharge. So if something happens to the goods, like if initially the carrier received 10 boxes of the goods from the shippers, but later on at the port of discharge, so he only deliver maybe 9 packages of the goods to the consignees. So of course they have to responsible for the one package of the goods lost, right? So that's very clear about the responsibility of the carriers. However, you can see that at the time that the shipper delivered the goods to the carriers at the port of loading, so it means the shipper has already finished all the procedure. I mean the export procedure related to the consignment. So as the one of you has raised the opinion about the sales of the package of the goods. So of course later on I'm going to show you about the very detailed procedures at the port of loading. However, you should understand that, for example, I have a container. I am the shippers. I have the containers. So after completions all the procedures at the port, so our container will be sealed. And the carrier will receive the sealed container either from the shipper or maybe from the port, depending on the different cases, different situations. So of course at that time the carrier cannot break the seals, open the containers, and track the goods inside the containers. So the carrier only receive, for example, 10 containers. And his responsibility is assure for the 10 containers safety during the transportation process. That's all for the carriers. So what I mean is the responsibility to track the quality of the goods and also to track the inside situation of the goods is not belong to the carriers. Belong to who? So who can track about the inside situation of the goods? Who? Or the port of loading, who can track?
Is that the custom in the port of loading?
Custom. The custom is only the department who can, only the side who can check the inside situation of the goods in order to make sure for the legal features of our consignment. But the carrier, he doesn't hold the responsibility to track the inside situation of the goods. He only need to track about the appearance of the goods and the quantity of the goods. So that's why, related to the clean bill of ladings, the carrier will issue the clean bill of lading if In terms of quantity, that's fine. In terms of appearance of the goods, everything was also fine. So please remember about that kind of features because it's very important. Because later on, we'll have to see about the detailed responsibility of the carrier during the transportation process. However, I also have to tell you another story that at the point of loading, if something happened to the goods, not only related to the quantity, but also related to the inside situation of the goods, sometimes still belong to the carrier's responsibility. So we have to analyze the situation very carefully in reality to see in what cases the carrier should give the compensation, in what other cases it's not belong to the carrier's responsibility. And that's the first thing. The other thing is related to the meaning of the clean and perfect bill of lading is actually the clean bill of lading is the most important characteristics of the bill of lading of that kind of document that the shipper or the seller need to hold. Otherwise, the buyers or the bank will immediately refuse the payment. Why? Because actually, with the thing that you have just analyzed, so clean bill of lading is the most important information to see to give us the proof that the seller has already delivered the goods and also delivered the goods in good conditions to the carriers. So that's the very, very important things. Not only deliver the goods to the carrier, but also deliver the goods in good conditions. So this is the evidence to show that he's already received his responsibility, he's already completed his responsibility in the sales contracts. That's the most important things in the sales contracts related to the responsibility of the seller. Deliver the goods in good conditions. So once again, related to the letter credit payment methods, so I'm the staff at the bank. I have to check the set of documents submitted by the seller. So you know that in the set of documents, so we have many paper, right? So, but the first thing that I have to check is the bill of ladings. And the first information that I have to check related to the bill of lading is whether the clean or unclean. If I see something related to the unclean, so no need to check for the other information. No need to check for other documents because immediately I can refuse to give payment to the seller. So that's the reason why clean bill of lading is the most important thing related to the ocean bill of lading. How about the unclean bill of ladings? So in contrast with clean bill of ladings, so we can see that this is a bill of lading that shows a shortfall or damage in the delivered goods. So what I mean is, for example, I'm the seller or I'm the shippers. So now I declare, maybe first of all, I give the information on the surface of the bill of lading is in the box that I have shown you previously. Again, this is the box. Okay, this is the box which can specify the information related to the goods here. So first of all, the shipper has to provide all the information from the beginning up to this box. So that's why you can see that. Sorry, maybe the letter is a little bit very small, but you can see this is the informations. Particular furnished by the merchants. It means the information from the beginning up to here will be provided by the shipper. So related to the goods, the shipper, for example, provide information like there are 10 boxes of the goods. However, when the carrier receives the goods in reality, he checks and realize that there are only maybe 9 boxes of the goods. So immediately the carrier will say something here, mention something here like there are only 9 containers of the goods or 9 boxes of the goods, not 10 containers, not 10 boxes. So immediately our bill of lading will become the unclean bill of ladings. So what I mean is the carrier has to trust, has to compare the real situation of the goods and the informations related to the quantity and the appearance of the goods which has been provided in this box on the first side of the bill of ladings. If everything is fine, so our bill of lading can be clean bill of ladings, or the carrier will stamp clean bill of ladings in this box. Otherwise, the carrier will stamp unclean bill of ladings. And if you know that if the shipper or the seller submit unclean bill of ladings, so of course it's impossible for us to receive the payment. All right. So once again, I have to emphasize that the most important things related to the documents related to the ocean bill of lading is clean bill of ladings. So for the unclean bill of ladings, so as I mentioned here in my slide, most banks refuse to accept any unclean bill of lading. So in reality, no bank can accept. And so that's why we have to think about the ways in order to repair the unclean bill of lading in order to have the clean bill of ladings. So there are several ways: replace or complement some missing or damaged goods, repair damaged goods if it is impossible, and form a letter of indemnity in order to be paid for fake goods part. So for the first two solutions, I think all of you, everybody can think about that if possible. But the last guy, I mean, the form a letter of indemnity in order to be paid for the perfect goods part. So let's see what is a letter of indemnity. Letter of indemnity. So actually, this is a document usually we form between the shipper and the carrier at the loading port. Of course, at the loading port. So this is the things happen at the loading port, and actually happen at the time that the shipper delivers to the carrier. So for example, I still take some example like on the surface of the bill of lading, the shipper provide information that there are 10 boxes of the goods. However, when the shipper delivers the goods to the carriers, only 9. In reality, only 9 boxes of the goods has been delivered to the carriers. So in the normal case, the carrier will comment like there are only 9 boxes of the goods, not 10. So, or in other words, it is the unclean bill of lading. Unclean bill of lading. However, now the shipper negotiates with the carrier that I want to form a letter of indemnity with you. So the letter of indemnity, again, this is the document that has been formed between the shippers and the carriers. So what about the meaning of the letter of indemnity? So because the shippers and the carriers, the shipper asks and the carrier agree to have the letter of indemnity between them. So because you have relying on the letter of indemnity, the carrier, even though he knows that there are only 9 boxes of the goods instead of the 10 boxes of the goods, but he still agree to issue the clean bill of lading in this case. Agree to issue the clean bill of lading. In this case, so it means the shipper can receive the payment or the sellers can receive the payment from the buyers. Because now we submit the clean bill of lading. The carrier agreed to issue the clean bill of lading, even though he already knows that there are only 9 boxes of the goods. But because they have the letter of indemnity in between, so that's why the carrier agreed to issue the clean bill of lading. And that kind of clean bill of lading can help the shipper to receive the payment. help the seller to receive the payment. How about the consequence? Later on, the carrier, when the carrier delivered the goods to the port of unloading, when the carrier delivered the goods to the port of unloading and delivered to the consignee at unloading port, at unloading port, the consignee received the goods from the carriers. So in the best scenario, I call this is the best scenarios. The consignee only received 9 boxes of the goods from the carriers, because actually the carrier received only 9, transport only 9 boxes. So in the best scenarios, what I mean is there is no loss or damage happened during the transportation process. So in the best scenario, the consignee only received 9 boxes of the goods. Meanwhile, he checked that the clean bill of the bill of lading is clean document. So of course 1 box loss. So now if you are the consignee, what do you think about this case? Who will have to be responsible for the loss of 1 box of the goods?
The carrier.
The carrier, of course, right? Because the clean bill of lading is an evidence to show that the seller or the shipper has already completed his responsibility. So now 1 box loss will belong to the responsibility of the carriers. So now in reality, what should we do between the shipper and the carriers? Because actually this is not the fault of the carriers. This is the fault of the shippers. So now the carriers in front of the consignee still realize that, okay, this is my fault. But actually it's based on the letter of indemnity, because they have the letter of indemnity. So all the shippers and the carriers, they know about the consequence. So later on, the carrier will ask the shipper to give compensation for the 1 box loss. So that's the way. So what I mean is actually the letter of indemnity is something like a negotiation between the shipper and the carriers. But this is the illegal document in reality. Illegal document. Why? Because from the consignee perspective, the consignee doesn't know about the existence of the letter of indemnity. He also doesn't know about the real situation of the goods at the port of loadings. So everything will be done based on the document. And also the bank, when they check about the set of documents, so they also have to rely on the situation of the document. So if the shipper or the seller has already submitted clean bill of lading, so no problems. So both of the consignee, both of the buyers and then the bank will do everything based on the document, against document. In other words, payment against document, not payments against the real situation of the goods, because it's impossible for them to track about the real situation of the goods at the port of loading. So that's why the letter of indemnity is a kind of the illegal document. It's only be existed between the shipper and the carrier, but sometimes they can help the shipper to receive the payment. And the shipper, and both of the shipper and the carrier also, they know about the final consequences of using the letter of indemnity. But actually, this is the very popular way in reality that the shippers and the carrier usually do. So because of relying on the letter of indemnity, on the one hand, the shipper still can deliver the goods to the carriers and then finally deliver the goods to the consignee. On the other hand, the shipper can receive the payment from the consignee. And the last thing is the shippers agree to pay anything related to the loss or damage of the goods according to the real situation of the goods at the port of loadings. So that's why even though the letter of indemnity is a kind of the illegal document, but but in reality, it still be used very popular between the shippers and the carriers. So that's all for the clean and unclean bill of ladings. Any questions so far? Any questions so far? So if not, shall we have the short break? So currently it's 8:45. So shall we come back at 8:55? Hàng mấy hàng điểm danh với cô nhé.
Đây. Everybody, today I will check your attendance.
Hello cô có thể tắt share screen để em có thể em cảm ơn cô.
Hôm nay buổi thứ 7 đúng không nhỉ?
Đúng rồi, ngày mùng 6 tháng 5 nhá.
I will check your attendance today. Hà Phương Anh.
Có á.
Nguyễn Thị Minh Anh. Nguyễn Minh Anh.
Có.
Nguyễn Thị Mai Anh. Nguyễn Thị Mai Anh.
Yes.
Okay. So we have finished 3 fundamentals in order to have the different kind of the bill of ladings. So actually, beside those kind of the bill of lading, so actually we can have the other special document like a surrender bill and seaway bill. And for the surrender bill and seaway bill, I want you to read by yourself. And in the next class, I'm going to ask you to present about the surrender bill and seaway bill in class, and you have to see when you read any information related to the surrender bill and seaway bill. So please follow the 2 main things. The first thing is the reason why that we need to use surrender bill and seaway bill in order to replace for the traditional bill of ladings. And the second thing is about the difference in terms of forms and in terms of the way to use of the two of the surrender bill and the seaway bill. So please be prepared for the surrender bill and seaway bill. All right. Next thing is about the content of the bill of lading, which means you have to understand how to fill in the necessary information on the surface of the bill of ladings, and then also for the second side of the bill of lading, I mean the terms and condition is sales by the liner shipping company, is sales by the carriers. We need to understand the different terms and conditions. So first of all, let's say it's about the first size of the bill of lading. So I'm going to give you the guidance in order to give the informations into the blank boxes and columns in the first size of the bill of ladings. So basically, we have the following things like the shipper, consignee, notified party, so on and so forth. So I think it's better to give you the guidance in the real form of the bill of lading.
Cô ơi, cô share screen đi ạ.
Cô chờ con một tí vậy. Xí. Share. Các bạn nhìn được chưa?
Rồi ạ.
Ok. So now I'm going to give you the guidance. So as I mentioned previously, on the first side of the bill of ladings, you have the blank boxes and columns here. So actually, we can divide the first size of the bill of lading into the 2 main areas. The first area from the beginning up to here. And as I analyzed video that, the information from the beginning up to here will be provided by the shipper, by the shippers. And then the rest part will be provided by the carrier or by the liner shipping companies. All right, so remember that. From the beginning up to the biggest box, in the middle, or the bill of lading will be provided by the shippers, and the rest one from here up to the end until the end will be provided by the carrier. So even though we said that the carrier will issue the bill of lading to the shipper, however, the shippers is the one who has to form the bill of ladings. In other words, the shipper has to give the necessary informations related to the shipper, consignee, notified parties, related to the vessel, related to the port, related to the consignment. And then the carrier, first of all, will confirm about the situation of the goods in order to assure the clean and unclean, ship on board or receive for shipment, for example. And then, of course, related to the straight bill of lading, outer bill of lading, and two-bearer bill of ladings. So actually, that kind of characteristics only depends on you, depending on the shippers. So if you want to receive, if you want to have the straight bill, so you can put the full information related to the consignee, like name, full name, and address. For example, you want to issue the outer bill of lading, so you have the different way, and similarly for the two-bearer bill of ladings. However, related to the real situation of the goods at the port of loading at the time of delivery of the goods, so it will be confirmed by the carriers. So that's why previously I said that the carrier will stamp like a clean, unclean, ship on board or reserved for shipments in this area. All right. Of course, this area will all the information related to consignment also be provided here, and then the carrier will confirm. So let's see one by one. First of all, about the shipper. So usually, the shipper will provide full name and information and address in this box about the shippers. Consignee, as I mentioned previously, depending on the different kind of the bill of lading that we want to use, so the information in the consignee's box will be different. Straight bill, order bill, and two-bearer bill. What is notified party? This box is standing for the notified parties. So sometimes, if this is the straight bill, what I mean is in the consignee's box, we see about the name and address of the consignee. So in the notified parties, we have several ways to express, like we can see something like same as consignee, same as consignee. Sometimes we can copy the full information from consignee's box into the notified address. That is another way. However, sometimes we still have the case that the information in the notified parties is totally different from the information that has been specified in the consignee's box. So how should we understand? So actually we can see that consignee is the information related to the buyers. And for example, buyers stay in the inland, maybe the warehouse stay in stay in the inland. It means far from the port. So usually, if you observe about the notified address here, so we can see that notified address. So maybe this is the representative of the consignee, and his address usually very near with the port of unloading. So this is the representative of the consignee who will reserve the goods from the carriers at the port of unloading, at the port of discharge. That's what the meaning of notified address. This is the information related to our transportation process. So it can include several information like a pre-carriage by. Pre-carriage by. It means because we are now using the for the main transportation process, the goods will be carried by sea. However, before the sea freight, so maybe the goods can be transported by trucks from the warehouse to the port of loading, and immediately after the from the port of discharge to the warehouse of the buyers. So pre-carriage by, it means before the sea freight transportation process. So what kind of carrier, what kind of transportation modes that has been used in order to carry the goods. And then information related to place of reset by pre-carrier. So it means you have to specify, for example, the name of the warehouse, the name of the premise, where the carriers, where another carrier will receive the goods and carry by other kind of transportation modes like the trucks or the trains. Next one is about the information related to the vessel, related to the ships. So usually you have to specify the name of the vessels, the name of the ships, and then sometimes like a flag of the ships, maybe the merchant and maybe the year to issue of the ships, for example, or draft of the ships. Next one is about the port of loading. This is the port of, I think port of loading, everybody are very familiar with the port of loadings. This is the port where the shipper will deliver the goods to the key areas, and the goods will be loaded on board of the vessels. Port of discharge, similarly. And then the last one is place of delivery by the carriers, by on carrier. It means after the goods has been unloaded from the vessels at the port of unloading, port of discharge. So now we have to use other kind of transportation modes to carry the goods from the port, discharging port, to the buyer's premise. So this is information related to the goods. So we have several main information that the seller or the shipper has to provide. Marks and numbers and kind of packages, description of goods. This is the gross weight and measurements. So that's the information that we are related to the consignment that we have to provide. However, please remember that actually, if we refer to the sales contracts, so there are a lot of information related to the goods. So how can you declare about the information related to the goods in this box? Because we don't have many blank space. So that's why usually we the shippers or the seller only provide several information related to the goods, and they can have the other parties would like to know for the other information related to the goods, so they can refer to the sales contracts. So that's why after providing information here, so usually the shipper or the seller can say something like, for the other details information, so please refer to the sales contract number 123, for example. All right. So that's all the information related to the will be provided by the shipper or by the seller. For the rest one, will be provided by the carriers. So which include the following things: freight and charges. Freight and charges. So it means the carriers or the line of shipping company will specify about the number or the amount of money that the cargo owner has to pay here. And also they can list maybe several kind of surcharges if necessary. The other things is also related to the freight. Freight payable at this box. Freight payable as. So related to the freight, so usually for the liner, freight will be in terms of prepaid. It means you have to pay freight in advance. You have to pay the freight in advance if you want to send the goods via the liner services. So sometimes they can say the freight payable because it will be paid in advance. So that's why they can declare that this is the name of the loading port. However, if we use the bill of lading for maybe the void charter parties, so the freight can be either be paid at the port of loading, or paid at the port of discharge. Next one is about the place and date of issue. This is the place and date of issue bill of ladings. So we also need to specify here place. Usually this is the port of loading, of course. And the date of issue. How about the date of issue? Sometimes I think the more popular case in reality is the date of issue is several days, usually several days after the date of deliver the goods. But actually, in principle, the date of issue bill of lading should be the delivery date. This box, how about this box? Number of original bill of ladings. So I already give you the information in order to distinguish between the original bill of lading and copy bill of ladings. So regarding the numbers of original bill of ladings, this is the traditions. This is the kind of practice in the secret. So usually the carriers will issue 3 original bill of ladings. So in other words, a set of bill of lading will include three copies. We have 3 original bill of lading here. So why 3? Why not 1, 2, or 4, 5, 6? So why 3? This is a kind of the controversial problems. I have to check many materials in order to have the answer for this issue. But so far, I think I haven't seen any kind of very reasonable explanation for this issue. So because in the secret, so we can see that. So most of the materials they explain that usually there are 3 parties involved into the transportation process, like carrier, shipper, and consignee. So because we have 3 parties involved in the transportation process, so we should have 3 bill of ladings. However, in the sea freight, it doesn't mean that. Each party will have 1 original bill of ladings. Instead of that, 3 original bill of lading in the sea freight always goes together. Very interesting thing that 3 original bill of lading in the sea freight always go together. Why? Because you know that ocean bill of lading has very important functions. I mean the third function, document of title, which means whosoever holds the original bill of lading can be seen as the owner of the cargoes. And you can see that if we assign shipper hold 1 original, carrier hold another one, and the consignee hold the rest one. So at least you can see the risks here, because the carrier is only the one who is responsible for moving the goods from the port of loading to the port of discharge, for example. So he's not the owner of the goods. So if we give the carrier 1 original of the bill of lading, so it's very dangerous, because the seller and neither the sellers nor the buyers go together with the goods. I mean, stay in the vessels. Only the carriers stay in the vessels. He take our goods, and if he can hold the documents which shows the ownership of the cargoes, so he can sell our goods, or he can do anything with our goods at any time. So that's very dangerous. So that's why in the sea freight, 3 original bill of ladings always go together. What I mean is, first of all, the carrier, after receive the cargo from the shipper at the port of loading, will issue 3 original to the shipper. And then the shipper now holding 3 original bill of lading, the seller holding 3 original bill of ladings. He needs to, if we use the letter of credit payment methods, so the seller has to submit a set of documents in which we have 3 original bill of ladings. So that's why you can see that in the letter of credit, usually it requires the seller to submit full set of bill of ladings. It means 3 original bill of ladings. So now the seller has to submit 3 original bill of lading full set, and then the bank will be the one who holds the 3 original bill of ladings. So after checking that, for example, the consignee or the buyer has already paid 100% of the value of the goods plus the letter of credit fee. So now the bank has to transfer the set of documents to the buyers, in which we have 3 original bill of ladings. The buyer holding 3 original bills of lading submit again to the carrier when the vessel reach the final destinations and then receive the goods. The carrier will recollect 3 original bills of ladings. So you can see that for the whole procedures in the sea freight, 3 original bills of lading always go together. So you should remember about that. However, if we just take a look into the other kind of transportation modes like air freight. So as I have told you previously that for the airway bill, so this is also the document that we have to use in the air freight, similar to the ocean bill of lading. However, related to the functions, airway bill actually it holds 6 functions. However, it only holds the first 2 functions of the ocean bill of ladings. For the function related to the document of title, airway bill doesn't hold. So in this case, that's very reasonable. In order to assign for each party will hold 1 original of airway bill. So that's why in the air freight, we have 3 original of the airway bill, in which shipper hold 1, consignee hold 1, and the carrier hold 1. So it's different from the sea freight. Please remember about that. Any questions so far? Understood? Okay. So that's all for the first size of the bill of lading. So at least you should know the way to fill in the necessary information on the first size of the bill of lading. And the second thing is you have to know the way to read the information on the first side of the bill of lading. How about the second side? Okay, this is the second side. This is the second side, so you can see that for the second side, on reverse side of the bill of lading, you can see the title is full terms of the carrier's bill of lading form, which means the reverse side of the bill of lading contains terms and conditions issued by the carrier, by the line of shipping companies. Issued by the carrier here. And the other thing that I want to mention with you is, actually, even though bill of lading has been arisen long time ago in history, however, in reality, we don't use a kind of the unique form of the bill of lading for all line of shipping companies, for all carriers in the world, which means different carriers can use different form of the bill of lading. However, as I observed so far, so actually on the first side, so most of the carriers still maintain the main information related to the shipper, to the consignee, to the port, to the vessel, to the consignment, also the freight, so on and so forth. However, the difference usually stay on the reverse side. So actually it means the terms and conditions will be different among the different carriers, among the different line of shipping companies. And the more important thing is, because those kind of terms and conditions usually mention to the right and responsibility, especially responsibility of the carrier during the transportation process. So it means different line of shipping company, different carrier can have the different right and responsibility, especially about the liability of the carrier related to loss of the goods, damage of the goods, delay in delivery of the goods. So that's why in the world, they think about how to, because we don't want to unify, so we want to do the following things related to the liability of the carriers. So first of all, they think about how to have a kind of the minimum liabilities for the carriers. It means we can have different line of shipping companies, different carriers can have the different terms and conditions. but at least it should maintain the minimum liability for the carriers. And the second thing is, because nowadays we talk about the international transport, in international trade, it means we need to trade among the different countries. You need to move the goods among the different countries, different areas. So that's why if we want to have the minimum liability for the carriers, so the more important thing is we should internationalize the liability for the carriers. So what I mean is, we have different bill of lading form, we have different terms and conditions as by the different carriers, by the different line of shipping companies. But at least we should have a kind of minimum liability for the carrier, and such kind of the minimum liability will be confirmed internationally. So how can we do so? How can we do so? So in reality, they said that we only can do both of the two things via establishing international legal system. And this is the international legal system in the sea freight. Similarly, for the other kind of transportation modes, we also have the international legal system in the air freight. For the multimodal transport, for the railway, for the roadway, we have the different international legal system. So what I mean is, if we can use the international legal system all over the world, so we can have a kind of a minimum liability for the carriers, and also everybody, all of the countries in the world can confirm for such kind of the international legal system. All right. So that's the reason why the very important things in this chapter is about the legal system in the shippings. And actually, in this part, we will focus on analyzing the main liability of the carrier during the transportation process. So that's very important. Actually, I have I have uploaded the different legal system in shipping in the class materials. So please read. Please read. So how to read? You can base on my slide to see that actually for the liability of the carriers, I'm going to divide into the three main things: period of liability, basics of liability, and limitation of liability. So I'm asking you to draw a table. And then you need to compare the liability of the carriers in terms of the period of liability, basics of liability, and limitation of liability for the following legal system. Let's see a little bit about the first of all about the different system here. Related to the international conventions, we have the first thing as international convention for the unification of the certain rules relating to the bills of lading. These conventions was established in Russia in 1924. So that's why we have the full name of this convention is Russia Convention 1924. However, we should have the other ways to talk about to call these conventions, because before it's showing officially in Brussels in 1924. So actually, the rule we have the rule was set up in the Hague. This is the city belong to the Netherlands. So that's why we can have the other name of this convention is Hague Rules 1924. Hague Rules 1924. Please remember, if we call conventions, so we should call this the Russia Convention 1924. However, if we call rules, should be Hague Rules 1924. And the other thing that I want to emphasize is you had to attach with the year of issuing this legal system, because actually for the other kind of translation modes, we also have the same name like a Hai rules, or maybe especially for the Hai, because Hai is the series in which where many conventions or the rules has been set up by itself. So that's why you have to attach with the year of issuing. So actually, Russia Convention of the Hai Rules 1924 can be seen as the first legal system that can be used in the seafront. So far, there's still more than 100 countries in the world. 100 countries in the world still using the Hai Rules, including Vietnam. So this is actually, in my opinion, this is the most important international legal system in the seafront. So around the Hai Rules of the Russia Convention 1924, we have the other two protocol, Nghị định thư protocol, which was issued in order to address or to amend portions of the content of the Hai Rules. So which are the first one is protocol to amend International Convention for the unification of certain rules relating to the bills of ladings. And this protocol actually was issued in Visby. This is a city in Sweden in 1968. So that's why we can call the name of this protocol briefly as Hai Visby Rules or the Visby Protocol 1968. And the other protocol is SDR Protocol 1979. So the two protocols, which was issued in 1968 and 1979, still belong to the first legal system. I mean, Russia Conventions or the Hai Rules. But later on, actually, for the Hai Rule, currently, usually, Hai Visby Rules and SDR Protocol has been combined into. Usually, they combine combine them together, and only call as the Hai Visby Rules. What is the reason why? So later on, I'm going to explain with you. And the other international legal system that also be very well known in the reality as United Nations Conventions on the carriage of goods by sea. So from the name of this convention, you can see that this convention was issued by United Nations. And it was issued in 1978 in Hamburg, Germany. So that's why we can call the name briefly as Hamburg Convention or Hamburg Rules. So from the international legal system, you can see that in terms of convention, we have only two conventions, which are Russia Convention 1924 and Hamburg Convention 1978. However, in terms of rules, we have three rules: Hai Rules, Hai Visby Rules, and the Hamburg Rules. And I prefer the second way because we can see the main difference among the rules instead of the conventions. So that's why I prefer to use Hai Rules, Hai Visby Rules, and the Hamburg Rules. All right. And in terms of national law, we have the Vietnam Maritime Code, so which was issued the first time in 1990 and the second time in 2005. So I think we don't have time anymore for this class. So in order to prepare for the next class again, please draw a table and then compare the liability of the carriers in terms of period of liability, basics of liability, and limitation of liability between or among the Hai Rules, Hai Visby Rules, and Hamburg Rules. And please submit to me before the class. Remember? Okay, so today we can stop here. Thank you for your listening. Any questions so far?
Em thưa cô là về cái lịch học sau tuần sau ấy ạ. Thì tuần sau thì em sẽ học như bình thường đúng không cô? Nhưng mà học ở trên trường xong rồi mình cũng sẽ hỏi các bạn trong lớp xem là có tham gia được lớp học online theo cái giờ này đúng không cô?
Hôm nay Hằng hỏi giúp cô xem là các bạn trong lớp mình nhé có tham gia được giờ học online vào tuần sau, thứ tư và thứ sáu như là giờ học bình thường hay là không nhé?
Vâng ạ.
Hiện tại các bạn có bị trùng gì không? Và